So, on to stage 4. Alright, so I'll note that if you check my HQ here, you can see Vega's men are basically gone. And essentially as I basically stated, they basically leave at the end of the last stage. Anyhow, I feel like this is probably a good time to go through these characters' backgrounds and what they're basically all about, so here we go. First, here's our lord, Alexis. He has fairly good stats basically all around, though he's a little bit weak in magic, but that's basically expected of non-magical units. He usually starts with Pel's Sword, which is basically a carryover name from past Partia 2 game. Pel is basically the main character he basically played in Partia 2, so this is basically a sword right here. He starts with Charisma, which basically makes him a lot better for boosting up the accuracy of his foes or his friends, so they can basically battle against his foes. And primarily like Alexis here, the main goal of him is not really basically to be in fights, but more or less he's basically to stand at the back, so to speak, and buff up his friends. Though he can be on the front line if you need him to. And then there's his class. He's a sword unit. The Lord gets a Chimera skill bonus and can use armor and skill and shield, and etc. He's a Modern General of the Empire, or so he is now. That will soon change. Next we have this page, Cecil. I'll note that Cecil is a very weak archer in this game. He has very moderate growth, so these stats here aren't exactly going to go that much higher than what they are right now. And he basically starts very weak magic defense and regular defense. He starts with an iron bow and usually starts with 2 potions, so you basically swap around quite a bit with him. But what makes Cecil stand out is his skill here. Basically what Cecil's really good for later on is basically battling against mages, because with his magical evasion ability here, he basically has a chance to dodge enemy mage fire. And if you can find a book basically to boost up his magic skill, he can basically be resistant to damage as well from mages, so he can be good mage killer basically later on. And there's class, he's basically a bow unit, so etc. Picked up as a street urchin, Cecil grew up in the brilliant household, and now serving Alexis as page. And yeah, I'll note by the way, Brilliant is basically I think Brilliant is basically Alexis's house basically, or his servant's house. But anyhow, we'll get into that later on when we basically meet Brilliant himself. So basically, I'll note down the road, there's this character called Brilliant we'll actually meet. So basically, he's a character in this game. Alright, so here's Reinhard. Now, this basically starts with the wind skill as well as the potion. And his stats basically are geared toward magic with a little bit of skill to land his hits. Though outside of that, he's a little bit weak in defense and strength. So if he takes a hit, he's probably gonna go down very easily. That said, he does have the ability to avoid enemy critical hits. So if he does get hit, you can at least be guaranteed he's not gonna take a critical hit. And his class, attack magic unit, so etc. He graduated from the Magic Guild of Gehenna, then joined the Imperial Mercenary Corps, where he first met Alexis. He is a descendant of Granian nobility. And I'll note that Granians are pretty important later on because, well, best to throw it out there. Partia is basically the first 3 games are basically covering the Grania saga, which are basically based around this old kingdom called Grania. And essentially, this guy's basically from it, and so it's Alexis basically, so it plays an important part piece later on. Here's Geralt. Now, I'll note that Geralt basically starts with his Arm Slayer as well as a Steel Sword. He also starts with a potion, which he doesn't have access to right now, so before I do anything else, let's go into Geralt's items here, which doesn't have any, so we'll have to go buy some potions. So let's buy some potions here. Let's buy like 5 maybe, so I have to go scrounging around for them. And there we go. We'll go to Geralt here. Let's basically drop a potion onto, like, you know, one of his slots here so he basically has access to it. And let's move the stuff around right there. And for the most part, I think, like, you know, these guys basically, like, you know, are good with, like, their equipment and stuff like that, so they're fine, but, you know, Geralt basically needs to have, like, you know, potions, like, you know, to help, like, you know, negate, like, damage to himself. Alright, so, I'll note that for Geralt here, by the way. He actually has, like, you know, fairly good stats, basically, in, like, you know, skill and speed. And he'll eventually get, like, you know, decent, like, you know, defenses, like, you know, and as well as strength. But, you know, starting out, basically, he's, like, you know, basically you're, like, you know, fast and swift swordsman. Now, what makes Geralt very, very useful is that he's basically got something called preemptive, which means he'll always attack first when he's basically attacking people. And essentially what that means is, like, you know, despite, like, you know, having, like, you know, a speed bonus or, like, you know, anything like that, if basically an enemy's, like, faster than Geralt, it doesn't really matter because he'll always hit him first before they get their strikes off. And when he's basically attacking, he'll always, like, you know, basically, like, I think, like, get, like, you know, 2 strikes more or less. Or, well, that's based on speed, but, you know, the thing about him is whenever he's attacked, he'll always basically attack first, is, like, the main thing to note here. He also has continue, which I don't really care much for. Basically, it's, like, you know, cause him to go, like, an extra round in battle. It's kind of dangerous, this, like, skill, because it can possibly, like, you know, throw off, like, you know, your strategy, like, this guy goes, like, you know, and gets himself killed, but, you know, it's okay, basically, if you like, know how to use it, basically, later on. And he's a sword unit. So, he used to be a renowned mercenary named the Silver Wolf. 10 years ago, when Geralt almost lost his life in an escort mission, Alexis happened to save his life. So, basically, he's, like, you know, a mercenary who basically joined, like, you know, Alexis after, like, you know, his life was saved. Alright, next is Megfan. Alright, so, I'll note that Megfan's, like, a very interesting character because he basically has very lopsided stats. He basically has very high strength and high defense, but everything else is very lacking. Especially magic, which he has, like, you know, very little of, if any. So, him getting, like, at least some magic would be nice, but, you know, it's, like, very rare for him to get some magic skill at all unless you have, like, a tome to boost him up for it. Anyhow, what's really good about Megfan, by the way, is he actually has a skill called Beast, where basically a critical chance basically rises as HP lowers. And that basically means, like, you know, as his HP drops, he'll actually get stronger, so to speak, of, like, critical chance. He also tries to basically saw a little bit. I don't really care much for tries to, it's basically, like, you know, it wastes your time, it makes him battle to do, like, you know, boost up his skills. But, you know, it can be helpful if, like, you have to wait around, which is, there's a few, like, missions where it actually has to happen where, you know, we're waiting around with Megfan, so it's not a bad skill for this game, but, you know, it's not great. So, he's an axe unit, and he can use armor and shield, so basically he's, like, he's a tank. Megfan's family used to be slaves in free cities before Alexis' father freed them. Megfan swore to serve Alexis and is absolutely loyal to him. So, a grateful slave, or former slave. And next is Kuntz. Alright, now, Kuntz is kind of interesting because he basically has, like, you know, a bow and, like, you know, horseback. And he has very good skill and speed, so basically this guy can, like, you know, run around, like, you know, shooting an arrow and, like, running away, so to speak. So, very, very useful. He also starts with a little bit of defense as well, a little bit of strength, so he actually does a little bit more damage than, like, Cecil does. Like, compared to, like, Cecil, this guy has, like, you know, 6'6", or 4'6", 147. As opposed to, like, Cecil here, with, like, you know, it's, like, you know, 4'6", 3'3". So, I'll note that basically Cecil has better magic defense because, like, you know, he's a mage killer, but, you know, he's actually got weaker defense than, like, the horse archer. Essentially, the thing about, like, you know, Kuntz here is that he's basically very good for, like, you know, tanking, like, hits in a crux situation, so that's sometimes how I basically use him. I just put him on, like, a couple trees to, like, you know, sort of, like, give him some defensive bonus early on, and maybe it's, like, you know, cause him, like, to, like, hold position sometimes. Now, note this guy basically has an arm bow with a potion, and it's swapped, of course, over to arm bow that Cecil had, which is basically running low, so now he's got, like, his bow as well, but, you know, it's basically enough ammunition basically to keep him through, like, the next mission for now. Now, I'll note that this guy probably has the most useless skill in this game because he's basically got aim, and he's basically a nomad. So, the thing about aim is that the idea is that you basically, like, you know, get a 10% accuracy bonus if you basically, like, don't move, but because nomads are very mobile, it's not very useful for this guy because basically he has to, like, you know, sit basically with a turn on his, like, horseback and, like, you know, negate the whole purpose of being a nomad is, like, being able to move around. So, it can be useful if you basically have the whole position, but I mean, it's more like useful to have this guy just being, like, you know, mobile nomad, like, you know, runs out, hits guys, and runs back, so to speak, so that's usually how you use him anyways. And yes, bullying with higher mobility, so that's what he is all about. So, he's a young man from Jinistra, who joined the Imperial Mercenary Corps to see more of the world. So, basically this guy's a foreigner, but, you know, he's basically like a mercenary, like, seeing the whole world. Alright, so, now, I'll note that after Kunz basically comes, like, you know, Eif. Eif is basically the guy who basically hired in, like, you know, the inn. Now, note that when you basically, like, you know, get these, like, you know, hired characters, or, like, you know, characters you basically recruit later on, they basically don't have any portraits in them, so, basically there's like, you know, just, like, you know, very basic units. They don't have, like, any backstory or anything like that. Now, I'll note this to Green here, though. He's actually very, like, useful to get, like, you know, when you get him, because, like, you know, he has high speed, so he basically can dodge attacks very easily. And he also has quite a bit of defense, despite being, like, you know, fairly low level. Skill's fairly good, his spell strength, so he basically hits pretty hard and, like, you know, hits fairly accurately. And his magic defense is also pretty good as well. Now, what makes, like, Eif really dangerous, though, is his, like, you know, relentless and critical abilities. So, with relentless, he basically has the ability to, like, you know, attack more in one time when activated, so basically sometimes he'll get, like, 3 attacks as opposed to, like, normal 2. Or, like, you know, 1 if he basically is, like, you know, another, like, really fast opponent. And basically he's got, like, his critical chance. I don't really care about much about the critical, much like I, like, care for, like, you know, the Nomad's aim, but this guy at least has like, at least some benefit to it, because, like, you know, he may be staying, like, you know, on a point where of interest where he has to, like, you know, defend, so it can work a little bit better for him a little bit, but, you know, it's not great. It's barely used much like, you know, Kunz, where basically, like, send him out, hit something, and come right back, whatever. And, yeah, note that he's got, like, no background information here, so he places, like, you know, empty here, but, you know, it is what it is. And basically, he's a lance unit, he flies, and he's not affected by terrain, so that's what Eif is basically all about. And I should probably buy him a lance because, like, you know, he's got no lance there, so we'll just put that right there. Just so he has, like, you know, some, like, you know, firepower to attack with. Alright, so, next is my character. Alright, so, I'll note that the stats for your character basically vary depending on what unit basically select for, like, you know, questions. I basically picked the Cavalry Swordsman, so basically he's got, like, you know, fairly average stats and, like, you know, everything. Except for, like, magic, which is a little bit low. And this guy can actually, like, use all the equipment because basically he's, like, you know, a knight on horseback, so to speak. So, I have, like, you know, swords, I got, like, you know, chainmail, I got, like, medium round shield, potion. You start having no skills in your character, but, you know, it does give you a little bit of backstory because he is technically in your army disguise from the start, so he's an Eltron soldier under the command of Lexus. And of course, class will basically vary depending on, like, what you basically have, so you basically see here I'm assorting with, like, you know, armor and shield with a horse, and basically, like, you know, that's all I basically am. And then finally we have the last guy here, Fletch. Now, note this guy was basically the boy we basically saved back in, like, you know, chapter 2. He was actually on the battlefield with, like, you know, Hode and, like, Kroos in, like, you know, the second mission, but, you know, he's a thief. It's not really very effective for anything. Now, note this guy, he's basically level 2. And note the stats here are very, very low. I usually don't think much for Fletch because he's basically very weak in the game because, like, you know, he starts, like, you know, pitiful stats basically for, like, defending himself. And it's very likely if he basically gets in a battle, he's gonna, like, you know, get, like, shredded to pieces, so to speak. So, I tend to, like, you know, avoid, like, using him because, like, you know, he's not gonna be able to take the hits, but whatever. So, he's basically got a skill called Pickpocket. Basically, is the thing what a Pickpocket basically does for him, it lets him, like, you know, sometimes, like, snatch enemies out of, like, the, you know, the enemy's purse, so to speak. So, if they have, like, a potion or, like, you know, some coolants, so basically, like, sometimes, like, grab it from him. Or backup of it, let somebody grab that as well. And it's something nice about him, but, you know, he's kind of weak basically overall, so it's, like, you know, hard to use him anyways. So, although he's basically a sword unit, his key can does not get used up when he basically opens door or chest, so I'll note that's basically his key over here. Basically, if I use, like, Fletch, he can, like, open doors and chests for me, which are, like, you know, locked. And it's very useful to have him around for, as, like, a lockpick, so to speak, but, you know, that it's hard to keep him around anyways because it's, like, low level, so he probably needs to level up if you want to use him, but whatever. Alright, so, He is an endlessly curious boy with some rather fast hands. Although he is known to pick up what is not his, Fletch always helps other people in need. So, there's basically like his background. And that's all the characters in the game thus far. There will be more basically joining us later on down the road, but you know, that's what we have right now. And before I forget, let's just go into his inventory here. We'll give him like a potion. And I might get my character here in our potion as well, because like, you know, he might take some hits. And Megfan can take an air potion as well. Life is fine, we'll just leave him be, I guess, so let's get to it. Now, before I go anywhere though, I just want to note something as well. The inn does actually have, like, you know, ooh, a healer. We actually have a healer in here, called an Eat. And yeah, I know this guy won't have any background or anything like that, but you know, that's a nice find basically early on. We'll pie this guy, sure. So, we just got ourselves a healer here. And by the way, note this guy actually comes with like his own healing staff, so he can actually like sort of like, you know, heal other people, but you know, that's not bad find. I'm okay with like getting him early on. So there's our first healer. Alright, let's just save the game here because I'm not gonna like, you know, go for like the air missions here and stuff like that, so we'll save her here. And I don't think there's anything else like a note basically here. Basically the blacksmith has like the same stuff. The item shop basically has the same stuff. And if I go to the pub, oh, there's a merchant here now. So, basically, the merchant basically has like, the merchant basically is like, you know, guy in like the pub who can basically sell you stuff. Now, I'll note this guy here basically has like a random like selection of stuff you can basically get, but it's always more expensive than what like, you know, you can possibly like, you know, buy in like the store yourself. So, magic drills are usually like 10,000, but with him, he basically charges like double for it. And like the turns basically 15,000, but you know, he charges basically double for it as well. And you can see like the chainmail basically just like 3,000 right here and 3,000 first chainmail right here, but you know, if I go to like the blacksmith and like, you know, want to buy it here, he'll be like something at like, you know, half the price. So basically it's like a double markup of like the merchant here. That's what it's all about. So yeah, hee, welcome, exploitive bastard. Alright, let's talk with some people here. Emperor won an early victory at Laris, but Lord Alexa's treatment of the captives is getting a lot of criticism for the upper class. They say he was too lenient and made a bad example when he allowed Prince Heinz to kill himself. It's too early to call any score until the main armies meet, but the Empire won impressively against between the vanguards. The old man Fox of Pestle was killed by a young Imperial general. That was surprising. Although King Elder of Tebei joined the Grand Alliance, the rest of the Free Cities are largely remain neutral. I guess a war is good for business if you're the supplier. So yeah, basically it gives you a little background there. Basically like the Free Cities are like, you know, basically Free Cities are like, you know, very independent basically, each of them. So like, you know, basically like one basically join the others are like, you know, sort of staying out of it. Alright, so just like a little bit of background about like, you know, stuff right there. Let's just get into it, shall we? So on the first battle, you can only deploy like so many people. So we actually don't have room basically to deploy everyone in our army, but you know, let's see here. Other people I don't want to deploy, I don't want to basically deploy my mage because he's like, you know, too weak basically for his battle. So I'd rather deploy like Davian here, for example. And other than that, let's just get to it, shall we? Yeah, nobody can see like number deploy 7, so this is a really like, you know, small mission with like, you know, very limited people, but that's fine. Lord, did you receive yes, the letter from Hilt. It says the situation has turned for the worse. Emperor's Small Council have sent my replacement, who is about to arrive here by tomorrow. But that is certainly a summon back to the capital. Luckily a quick trial, and perhaps a beheading. Oh no! All for allowing a damn old geezer to kill himself? They already have witnesses who are painting me a rebel sympathizer and a traitor. They want my blood. The letter says my residence at Ultra was set fire by a mob of frantic young noblemen. Lord, this cannot be allowed. I made everything happen due to my vanity. I'm sorry that I am putting you all into such a difficult situation. But the time has run out. I have to make a choice between answering a call from the Empire and salvage the loss of my honor, or desertion. A dishonor such as that for mere preservation of myself. Such cowardice will taint my name and my ancestors forever. In any case, I have prepared a letter that assures none of you may become accomplice in any crime or wrongdoing of mine. I want to thank you all for your years of services, captains. General, you cannot go back to the capital. It is suicide. Everyone must die, eventually. Yes, but it does not have to be so wasteful. Why don't we just ignore the order, kill whoever coming is in as your replacement, and join the rebels with the army? No, Captain. Why not? I'd say if they make you a traitor, become a full-fledged one. No matter what happens, I won't allow them to think me a thief of His Majesty's legions. Then what? It seems to me, General, what he wants to say is that we are all ready to follow you if you decide to leave. Yeah, that's right. We all owe you our lives, and not to the Empire. You guys. Alright, so Alexis is on the run, as the pursuers from the Tribune are chasing him tirelessly. He must cross the River Yei toward the territory controlled by the Rebellion. So yes, we're fleeing this chapter. We're running away! Lord! The pursuers are almost caught up with us. More than that, it seems we are being trapped like a hunting game. I see dust rising on northern and southern fields as well. Oh gods! How can you be so calm? Hopefully, this is not the day I die, so we must run faster. And I love the background music for this one, but for sure. Alright, so another background here. This is a very small map, and basically we got this river to cross. There's a basic broken bridge down here, but you know, what's really interesting about this mission is that basically you have a bridge right here, and you have this arrows up here. And I wonder this house down here is very important as well. But anyhow, while we're basically over here, let's just get these guys on the move, shall we say. So we're gonna have Alexis move as fast as possible this way. And I'm gonna have Ifis move right here. What's happening? Do I need to hide my family? Whoops. Alright, so this is actually something worth knowing, by the way. You can only have up to 6 items in your inventory, so if you actually have more than items in this, you can't take them all. I forgot about this little feature, so you know what? Let's just suspend the game while we start over so I don't do that again. So some of my guys please have too much equipment basically on, so I have to basically watch out for that.